Welcome back!
It's been a long time since we did our YouTube.
A little higher. This week, I finally got approved for my green card. Yay! Long time coming. So we're going to talk about the whole process. 3 years in the making.
3.5 years. 3.5 years.
Wow.
Before we start telling our story, the very first thing we want to say is that we are not lawyers. So don't be like Mariah and Peter said, because Mariah and Peter ain't said she.
We just don't know.
We don't know.
So get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer.
If you can do it yourself.
Or do it yourself, but don't listen to us.
Let's take you back to this point in our life where I proposed to Mariah in St. Thomas. What happened next?
It was the beginning of a very long process that we had no idea was waiting for us.
Ooh.
6 months after we got engaged, we decided that we were going to hop off the cruise ship that we were working on and get married. Our family flew in. It was pretty amazing. And then we just came back and went right back to work.
I got off the ship, a bachelor as far as I'm concerned, and I got back on, hitched. Not a bad Sunday if you ask me. No.
1 month after our wedding, we started our green card process.
That was a challenge.
It absolutely was, because there's so much paperwork. There were so many things we didn't know. We definitely got a lawyer, as we suggested earlier.
Yes, an immigration lawyer in this case. That's a big difference.
Yes, so we got a lawyer and she explained everything to us. And one of the biggest decisions we had to make was whether or not we wanted to do the process 1 or 2 ways.
To leave or not to leave? That is the question. Option number 1 is where I would stay in the United States during the entire process. The only catch is I wouldn't be allowed to work.
Until you got approved for your work visa.
Exactly.
Option number 2 allowed us a little bit more freedom. We were able to continue with the lifestyle that we had, which was traveling in and out of the States. Mm-hmm. It was going to take longer, which we were aware of, but we did not think it was going to take 3.5 years.
Goodness.
Yeah, we had no idea. I mean, we thought it was going to take it was like a year versus like 9 months. Like we didn't really, we're like, oh, 3 more months, no big deal. But then, it took a lot longer. But this process allowed us to travel and all of those things. And so we decided to go with that.
Once we opted for option number 2, the paperwork started. This included the physical and fingerprints, which I mistakenly did wrong. This is why you get a lawyer. I did not realize, being in Canada, that I do not get them done at the provincial level. I get them at the federal or state level.
Right. So then that held us up. I think it only held us up about 3 months.
Yeah.
We were out of the country when we realized that this was an issue. So we needed to wait till we got back to the States. But like I said, it was only about 3 months. And then he went home to Canada and he went and got the fingerprints redone.
No problem. After the fingerprints were done, at this point, we've been waiting just about a year. And we went back to tour, back overseas, and continued working. At this point, no news is good news.
Right.
We were basically ready at a moment's notice to pick up from tour and go back to Canada for my interview, which unfortunately never happened. At this point, almost 2 years have gone by and still no new news.
And we were also coming to the realization that tour was not going to happen. It was not going to be an option.
No.
And so we needed to really sit down and make some decisions. We had gotten to that point where Peter had been in the States while we were waiting for tour to go back for about 4-ish months. Mm-hmm. And so we reached out to our lawyer again and we're like, okay, what do we do?
Fun fact, as a Canadian, I am able to stay in the United States for a maximum of 6 months.
Is that a fun fact though?
Is it? I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think some people know that already, but
No,
okay. Okay.
And so anyway, the 6 months was nearing and I was getting nervous. I was getting antsy.
We thought we were going to get separated because we know so many couples. And if you're one of those couples and you're watching, We send out so much love to you. I know that it sucks long distance, and we were afraid that we were going to be in that position. That is what prompted us to reach out to our lawyer and just ask what our next steps, what can we do so that we don't get separated. And she suggested that we do an adjustment of status, which essentially meant that we were going to have to start the process over again. And that is why it took us another year.
So right as we completed those papers for the adjustment of status, guess what happened?
Always something, yeah.
It's always like that. I got news for an interview in Canada. Me.
However, if he left the States, there was quite a big risk because we had no idea how the interview was gonna go. So that was really scary. And if he got denied, then he was going to be stuck in Canada. And of course, COVID was still a thing. The borders were still closed if you were not Canadian. I was not allowed to go with him. So he was going to go alone. He had to quarantine for 2 weeks on both ends. And of course, we just had that fear of like, what if he doesn't get it? What if he gets denied?
Because of all that, we decided to just wait it out and let the adjustment of status happen.
And take its course, and it did. And honestly, it was a much faster process.
I think so.
The adjustment of status only took a year from date to date, I think, pretty much from the time that we started it.
Fast forward to 1 month ago where we finally got the notification of the interview. Here is a quick clip of me telling Mariah.
Guess what?
What?
I got my interview date.
No way! You did?
On your birthday.
Oh my god! Oh my god! As you can see in that video, I'm completely shocked because I honestly was not expecting it. We've been waiting for so long. And it was only 1 month out. So that meant it was time for us to hunker down. And we had an entire list of things we needed to bring. And one of those things was this photo album, which was actually really fun to create.
Yeah.
We have so many amazing memories together. I was like, they have to approve us.
And good thing we get to keep it.
Yeah, we got to keep it.
It's a
We
lot
got
of
to
work.
approve it.
You got to keep in mind with these things, with these interviews, you need to prove that the relationship is real.
Yes, so that was the other thing. They always are going to assume that the relationship isn't real. So because of that, we were really nervous.
So in those days leading up to the interview, all that we had to go off of was the things that we saw in movies.
Things like, what color toothbrush does Peter use? What side of the bed does he like to sleep on? How does he put his dishes away?
What kind of seasoning does Mariah like? What's her favorite color? You know, these are questions that we thought they would be asking us.
Yeah, so we were just like going in thinking like, oh my God, make sure I remember and I don't mess it up. And if I do, you better say I said it right.
3.5 years later, the interview is tomorrow. Where do I go to photocopy my driver's license? To Staples. What happens at Staples after I get the multicolored, double-sided photocopy of my Canadian driver's license? I take the copies. I leave the driver's license.
I was so frustrated because I did not.
How do you think I felt?
I don't know.
The morning of is when I realized, the morning of the interview is when I realized that I left my Canadian driver's license in the Staples store that did not open until 8 a.m. and my interview was for 6:30 in the morning.
And the worst part, this is the worst part, and I don't know, like, it was the worst for me. I asked him to do one thing, which was to go get a picture printed of our engagement. That picture, actually.
That one right here. This one right here.
But he decided to do an extra thing that I did not ask him to do, and then left the frickin' license.
I realized I was going through my checks and I had an outdated photocopy of my driver's license.
But nobody told you to do that.
And you know what? They didn't even ask for it. They didn't even ask for it.
They didn't.
No.
Thank goodness.
Day of. I did not sleep a wink.
You did. I saw you sleeping.
Oh. Okay.
I saw you sleeping.
You creeping on me?
Well, I mean, I wasn't asleep, so I saw you sleeping.
Oh. Why weren't you sleeping?
Because I was nervous. And the baby.
Yeah. 15 minutes before my interview, we sit in the waiting room like this, exactly like this, okay? Because remember, we're going off of questions that we saw in the movies, okay? God forbid I answer the wrong color to Mariah's favorite color, pink.
It's pink. It's
Okay,
pink.
okay. So we get there. The officer who's giving the interview, super chill.
Yeah, he's so nice. And we're like, okay.
We're like,
Yeah, we're like, oh gosh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. As you should be, respectful.
Yes, and we just had this whole idea, like we'd fabricated a whole story of what this interview was going to be like.
Like it was gonna take hours.
Yeah, because we thought, and apparently it can, but it was we were in there for 20, 30 minutes.
In and out, 30 minutes.
Yeah, and the guy was so nice, so chill. He looked through some of our stuff. We got to chatting. He was telling us about him. We were telling him about us. And then he was like, okay, everything looks good. As of today, you are a resident of the United States. America.
Nonchalantly, okay? Like just kind of like, he's just at his computer, he's like, okay, that's about it. You are officially a Canadian residing in the US. Something like that. I got my permanent residency. That's what he was telling me. And it just like, it kind of clicked. I looked at him.
He said it so chill.
I was like this. When he said it, I was like,
my eyes watered. I was just like, oh my God, it's over. So yeah, here we are. He's been approved. We have to wait for the official card to come in the mail, but we don't have to do anything for 10 years.
yep.
And if he decides to, he can apply for citizenship
Yes.
in 3 years.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But what a relief.
A journey. What a journey.
Thank you all for hanging out with us and hearing our story to getting this green card and starting a new chapter of our lives.
Yes. Be sure to follow our TikTok and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.